to TAC, a huge grand final edition that we do have for you, and we thought we'd better film it earlier on in the week so we can get everyone excited about what is going to be a great grand final. But before we get to that, Ash Brazel, are you surprised about the two grand finalists?
I am, and we've talked about Fever the whole way through, but the fact that Giants got over them, we said it last week. Sam Pullman for me, unbelievable. The way she played, I said it, she gets in the Jamaicans' head. So I can't wait for this episode because they're the questions I want to ask her, B.
Well, that's right. Our guest coming up on the show today is Sam Pullman to talk about that incredible win for the Giants over the Fever. And then we also have Lisa Alexander coming up a bit later in the show to help us preview all the ins and outs, all the matchups for the grand final. But there is a lot we need to get through. So we should get started. It's now time to get to the agenda thanks to TAC. Make safety features a priority in your next car. Visit howsafeisyourcar.com.au. And I think rather than us talk about the game, I think we're better off to go to the player herself who just had an incredible influence and took down Jhanielle Fowler like no goalkeeper has been able to do at all this season. Sam Pullman, welcome to Centre Court.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Now, we're going to talk you up a lot because Ash Brazel was on our show last week. I don't know if you saw it, but she said Sam Pullman is the key to this game. She is the one that can play on Fowler and she is the one that can beat Fowler. Did you watch that pre-game at all?
I don't normally watch too much on social media, but funnily enough, it did come up on my Twitter. And look, I did feel a bit of pressure when you singled me out, so thanks for that, Braz.
Well, it worked. Hopefully you can do it this week.
All right, talk to us about what you did in preparation for that game, because we know Fowler is such a huge influence. As a past defender myself, I know what a tough player she is to come up against. How did you personally prepare for that game, and what was it? What was your game plan?
Oh, I think I've been playing on her for a lot of years now, and I think each year when people talk about it in the media, how you kind of stop her, I think this year was the first time I was kind of like, I have no idea how you stop her. I think she shows that now she can shoot from anywhere, she can move, she can hold, she can defend. So for me, while I had a big job, on my hands, I certainly have prided our whole defence end all year on that it's not just one person that gets us ball. I think all four of us as a unit have been sharing that, and I will give credit to Amy Parmenter. The number one feeder to Fowler is Bez, and for her to shut her down made my life so much easier.
Classic goalkeeper V, always giving credit to everyone else, but
That's
really,
right.
Sam, it was you. Just take the credit, mate. It was such a good game. But was there any talk in the lead up how to beat her? Because I think, like you said, everyone's talking about how do we beat Jhanielle Fowler. She's unstoppable, but you did it. Was there talk about it? Or like you said, was there the game plan that everyone else had to do their job for you?
Yeah, I think a couple of weeks ago when I notched up 100 games, everyone spoke about how I guess I pride myself on being that team player. And yes, I'm not the most specky player in terms of potentially stats, but I hope that game on the weekend showed just how important a role of a team player is, that you just have to kind of niggle and make the most of your opportunities. So I knew that, potentially we might only get 5 balls that might not be right, or she might fumble or a rebound. And just 1 or 2 of those is enough to win you a game. But when we got the held ball on her shot, I think on the first shot, I had a bit of a laugh to our team because I thought, we're actually really in for a chance today. Normally it takes 60 minutes to try and get reward. And I felt like in that first kind of 10 minutes, we got hand on ball, which gave us all the confidence that we needed.
Oh, and keeping her to 41 goals, incredible. One thing that I thought was really impressive from your whole team was just the limited amount of penalties. So as a team, you scored the least amount of penalties out of any team in the SSN this year. So you kept yourselves to 30 penalties, and I think for you only had 3 for the entire game, which is incredible for a defender, let alone a goalkeeper, coming up against Fowler. I mean, was that a plan to be as clean as you possibly could and be disciplined as a team to make sure the ball that you did get was clean enough and you weren't getting involved in too much of the physicality?
Yeah, I think it's crucial that some games potentially you do get a bit stuck, and if you're playing to the umpires, you I guess relieve that pressure. And I felt like we did a really nice job in grinding as a defence unit, but staying in play so that when those intercepts or opportunities come, we had a chance to go for them rather than I guess, contesting and then last minute maybe, putting a hand in there or trying to do something, just naturally going for the ball, and the umpire kind of pulling up and then releasing the pressure. So I felt like we did that nicely. I think the umpires allowed a lot of play to happen, which is also nice to be a part of, and I think nice to watch as well when they let a little bit more freedom go.
Sam, you brought up Amy Parmenter, who's just had an incredible year. You've also got April Brownlee as your goal defence. So you've got two amazing players in front of you, and then you've got Price as well in centre, who's a diamond player. How important is it for the four of you to have that connection? Because it's very rare that you see the four, I guess, be having that amazing game all at once.
Yeah, I think April and I started playing, you'll probably remember those days of Braz when we were about 16, 17 together playing for New South Wales. And so it's been really nice to reunite as a circle combination this year. And I think one thing that I really liked in pre-season was, we often speak about, how I'm going to beat Fowler, but what we kind of say is how we're going to beat her, and knowing that we can each help each other to shut down a unit or, get the ball. And I think that's why we're such a weapon this year in the defence end, because we work together, and I think you have to look at us as a unit together and not just single out one player that you can shut down and then you kind of crack it. So I'm really proud that we can kind of work together and bring our strengths. And yeah, I think that's why we all play team sport, right? To work as a team.
100%.
Yeah, I think we've done a really good job of that this year.
And I love that it's a traditional New South Wales four as well, all four of you being born in New South Wales, so that's pretty rare.
You want to come and be part of it, Braz?
Listen, I
Here we go. Live recruiting. I like it. I'm all for it.
There's no sport. I can play wing attack. No, but orange is not my colour, so black and white, I stay there.
Who knew?
No, but Sam, we talk about the four. Is there anyone that actually calls what play is what? Is there one person that makes the call, or do you take turns, or whoever's got the feel at the time?
Yeah, I think we kind of all just, call it as we go, depending on, I think, who we're playing on and what people need. And if you need kind of help, you might be directing the play, or if you're confident, that might be you. And I think we've just learned over the year, and especially our defenders that we've got on our bench as well, in what are each other's strengths and what do they need when the ball is here and what does it look like. So we spend a lot of time, talking to each other and working out what you need to, again, what we just touched on before, working together to make sure that we can collectively come up with the ball, rather than just feeling like you have to, like for me, having to tackle Sam Wallace by myself or Fowler by myself is quite daunting and a really big task. So the more that they can kind of help me and we can work together, I think the more opportunity that we're presenting ourselves with.
Okay, well, let's move on to the big grand final, because we can put that prelim final aside. Fever, they are gone. You don't have to worry about them again, but you do have to worry about the New South Wales Swifts. And it is quite serendipitous. I don't even know if that's a word. Is that a word? But
don't ask me.
It is quite just serendipitous, I think, that you are in the grand final, the two New South Wales teams. It's in a time when New South Wales, we know, are going through a really hard time. We saw it with Melbourne Vixens last year and seeing what it did when they won for Melbourne. And Sydney have got that already now, no matter whoever wins. But can you give us just a bit of a background you told us off air a little bit about Netball New South Wales and what their goals were. Can you just let our centre court viewers know exactly what the plans were behind the scenes, and the fact that it's pretty incredible that it's been able to come off?
Yeah, I think there's so many different elements behind it. We're part owned by Netball New South Wales as well. So for them to have two SSN teams in the competition, given that our state is such a talented state from, grassroots right through the pathway. So for them to do that, and from a leadership point of view, to have their plan in 5 years to have two teams in the grand final come off is pretty incredible for all their hard work. And then, for us, how good is it that the entire state are all kind of, I guess, competitive in terms of if they're going, for Swifts or for Giants, and that rivalry there. And then also we just know how tough our state's doing. There's so many netballers that would love to be around their courts on a Saturday, and it's been a while since they've been able to do that. So for us, I think the last couple of weeks with the Swifts, us playing the Swifts in the first semi, them being a definite in the grand final, us playing on the weekend, and now us against each other in the grand final, I know has brought so much joy. to what's been a really tough time at home. So, yeah, we're incredibly proud, and I think it's just awesome for Netball New South Wales and our state in terms of a New South Wales v New South Wales Grand Final.
And so we know in the semi-final that you went down by only 1 goal. It was such a great game. How do you go about turning that around this time?
Oh, I think we just like to do things the hard way, don't we? So we play an extra game this leading in. But, yeah, for us, probably wasn't our best performance against them. And they finished that game off really well. So we've got a bit of work to do this week. Very different style compared to Fever. We know that we're a bit confident and enjoyed the game on the weekend, but know that Swifts are a lot different and play possession ball really well and have a really talented squad. So we've got a lot of work to do before we get to Saturday.
And personally for you, Sam Wallace plays a very different game to Jhanielle Fowler. How do you switch, I guess, your game and the mindset going from such a holding shooter to someone that runs out, holds, she does everything, she's so athletic. What are you going to have to do to beat her?
Yeah, she is. I think you just touched on it. She can move, she can hold. She's more than capable and happy to shoot a 2-point. She's strong on the rebound. Yeah, there's obviously little that she can't do. So I think just again, like we've touched on the whole time, looking at what my job is, what she doesn't like, and how I can work with my defence unit to try and disturb them. And we'll look at both the first semi that we played against them and also what we did in that Adelaide, when we were in Adelaide and played them, because obviously we got the win up there. So a bit of a mix on what works and where our gaps are.
And let's focus a little bit, because we haven't probably given them any attention that they really do deserve, but that is to your attack end. And I really thought it was an incredible performance by Jo Harton in terms of the way she led the team on the weekend. I mean, I know I was quite critical in your loss to Brisbane or to Queensland Firebirds, and I was looking at the bench and Jo Harton, she was really defeated, and I thought, oh, as a captain, you really want to be out there being the positive one, but she had nothing left in her to give. However, it was a complete turnaround for me watching her on the weekend. You could see Sophie Dwyer, she's had an incredible season, but you could see her starting to get tired towards that last quarter, towards the end of the game. And Harton just really stepped up. She came out of the circle. She almost said to Sophie, just go back in. Let me do all the hard work out here. You just be an option for us in the circle. And I thought that was just a real standout performance from her without her getting all the glory as such. I mean, you took all that. That's okay. But can you talk about the attack end for me and just how much they have developed over the season?
Yeah, I think firstly, I feel like we always talk about the attackers, so I'd love to be chatting about defenders with you too. But yeah, I think they're both incredible. I feel like they hardly lost any ball on the weekend. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember Courtney Bruce really touching the ball either. So a really, massive credit to Jo keeping her quiet, but also the girls feeding her to make sure that we weren't setting up Courtney Bruce, who's, a fantastic defender. So a lot of strategic play behind that. I mean, Sophie's just been incredible this season, just, stepping up to this level. And I think Jo's just fitted in quite nicely now. I think being a captain, you have a lot of responsibility on your shoulders, and she certainly plays with a lot of heart and prides herself on stepping up in big moments. So I feel like potentially in the season, there's a lot going on. We've been moving around the entire country trying to avoid COVID, living out of suitcases, losing suitcases, like we've been through it all. And then to, lose an experienced goal attack first game, to have a young one around you, that's a lot of expectations that she puts on her shoulders because she wants us and her to be the best. So I feel like on Saturday, she kind of really nicely got the balance of stepping up and being a captain and delivering, but also supporting those around each other and not having to do too much either. Giving credit to those around you because everyone's capable. Like, I don't think Maddie Hay coughed up the ball the entire time, which is, amazing for a wing attack. So, yeah, I think Jo's finally found that balance, which is entertaining to watch.
Sam, Maddie Hay, the only player on court we haven't talked about yet. You just mentioned her.
That's different.
We need to talk her up because, in my opinion, she is the most underrated wing attack in the league. I think as a wing defence, playing against someone like that, there's not too much hype about her. So you don't go in too nervous, but you should, because she, in my opinion, she gets so much ball. She's not talked about. She's someone who I think could really be a potential Diamonds player. Last couple of years, she's been in and out. Now she's finally cemented her spot. Everyone knows she's good because I've just said it. But can you give me an insight of her personality? Because she just looks like such a beautiful person and we haven't seen much about her.
Yeah, she absolutely is. I think the coolest thing about her is she's traditionally a wing defence. So she came into us.
I knew I liked her.
Yeah, there you go. A New South Wales athlete and our training partner, and was more a wing defence centre. And then obviously just because of retirements and injuries and different things that happened, our wing attack position kind of opened up, and she's just taken it, under her own kind of little way that she wanted to play it. It's not a typical cookie cutter kind of wing attack that she was trying to fit. She's played it how she's wanted to. And that's why I think she's done so well, because she's owned wing attack how she wants to. You can tell the amount of ball that she gets back from us defensively shows that she used to play a lot in wing defence. And I think that's probably my biggest message is, if you're a fan or a lover of netball, watch those players in the teams that maybe aren't the, most Becky intercept or the best feed, even though she does some incredible feeds. It's the people that are consistent and give to their team are the ones that I think are the most important. And Maddie Hay is one of those for us.
Oh, I love hearing that so much, and I couldn't agree with you more. Now, before we let you go, your jumper, it is fabulous. Are fans able to buy these jumpers?
Yeah, absolutely. Vala is our uniform supplier, who's fantastic. I know that there was a sale. They did a sale on last week's finals, so jump on. But I'll just give you a quick kind of spiel, if that's okay.
Please do.
So this is designed by Crystal. She was a part of my Aspire program and came on board our first year, so 2018, to design our Indigenous dress, and has done it every year. And then this is actually on the back of our playing dress at the top, and all of our training singlets and everything that we wear. So, and what it means is bringing us all together. So we all come, our meeting place is netball, and we all come to netball for different reasons and different walks of life. And what brings us together and connects us is netball. So we're really proud to wear it. It's our favourite jumper, and you can buy it from Vala. So yeah, super special.
That is very cool. I'm so glad I asked you about it now. Thank you so much for joining us on Centre Court, Sam. We cannot wait to watch the game on Saturday. We wish you all the very best, and we hope you have another cracking game.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys.
That was the agenda, thanks to TAC. How safe is your car? Well, we promised you 2 guests on today's show, and our second one is coming up. It's now time for the Nitty Gritty, thanks to Lexus of Berwick, your hybrid destination of choice. Visit lexusofberwick.com.au. And joining us on Centre Court, we have former Aussie Diamonds coach Lisa Alexander. How are you, Lisa?
G'day, Bianca. G'day, Ash. It's great to see you both. And isn't it an exciting week? Grand final for the Suncourt Super Netball. Wonderful.
We couldn't agree with you more. It is 2 very exciting teams that we're going to get to watch on Saturday. One thing that we thought we needed to get you on, because we thought someone who is neutral as well. We often talk to players. We've had Sam Pullman on. We had Sophie Garvin on last week. So we thought, let's get someone who knows the game probably a lot more than we do. You've coached the game at the elite level for a number of years. So we want to hear what your thoughts are on these 2 teams who are coming up against each other. Can we take anything from their previous games that they've played against each other this season?
Well, you certainly can. The whole thing is, it's like another local derby. Or derby. It's like smash 'em up derbies. It's physical. It's mentally draining. They have practice matches against each other over the years, and it's personal. Like, it really is. And I know that that's the way it feels actually a little bit for Collingwood Magpies and the Melbourne Vixens. It has that extra spice. It'll be well controlled. The umpires will control it well, but each team really has great knowledge of each other, much more than the other team. So, Sophie Dwyer will be, they're going to do their homework on her. I think sometimes the other teams sort of maybe don't pay her enough respect and attention, but she will definitely get some attention drawn to her. So I think Julie Fitzgerald really needs to have a couple of plans up her sleeve for in case her, attack end doesn't necessarily fire. Having said that, Sophie's passed so many tests this year, it's amazing.
Oh, she's an unbelievable athlete and I've loved watching her. But Lise, you picked the Swifts to win the premiership at the start of the season. I have a question. Are you still tipping them to win the premiership? And why did you pick them at the start?
Yeah, I just thought they were the team with the most experience all over the court. They had really good change-ups in their bench. I think they underperformed last year, and I think the coach and the athletes really worked together and kind of knew that. And so they've just been humming along this year nicely. There hasn't been anything over the top from them, but they've won the matches, I think, that they've sort of set out to, except they had a bit of a blip when they were in Adelaide, but I think that's caused by Sarah Clowe, Maddie Turner and Maddie Proud going home to Adelaide. I think that's very spoken about in the netball world when people go back to their home states. It's always interesting. As a coach, it was something that you had to manage. I know with Adelaide Thunderbirds and Jane Woodlands-Thompson, we often used to talk about that, particularly when we had Sydney players playing for us, Monia Gerard and Erin Bell, and we go to Sydney to play. It's just creates extra distractions for them. They've got family there, all of those extra things that you try to mitigate, but it doesn't matter. It's hard to block all of that out.
And you mentioned Sarah Clowe, and when I look at my key matchup for the game, it's definitely Sarah Clowe taking on Jo Harton. I spoke about it before, and I thought Jo Harton was really impressive in not just her gameplay, but the way she led the Giants against Fever. I feel like that hasn't been how she started off the season, but it's certainly been how she's ended the season. And then when we look at that semi-final, Sarah Clowe was incredible how she started off that first quarter. She really cemented how she was going to play against Harton, and I think she's the best goalkeeper in the league at the moment, and I love that she can play against all different types of shooters. What is your thoughts on that matchup?
Yeah, look, I agree with you. I think I tweeted that clip of Sarah Clowe getting that final intercept against Jo Harton. I said, well, Diamonds versus England Roses. This is what we want to see, Diamond supporters, which is true. You want to see your best going at it and together. And I agree with you. I think Sarah Clowe's really added lots to her game, and she continues to in terms of her tactical understanding and how she matches up against the person she's playing on. I think she's done a lot of study, and I remember talking to Geitzy about this, and I think you'd remember this, Bianca, when we talked about how to shut down Jo Harton. We needed to block off her favourite side as much as possible. I'm certain all the coaches know that, and it's not a matter of just doing it, knowing to do it. You've actually got to do it. And, Sarah's been very disciplined. I think she's really cleaned up her act too in terms of her penalties. She would be one of the lesser penalised players, I think. And I agree with you. I think she has been the best goalkeeper in the league this year.
Now, Bianca, I've gone down to the other end of the court and I'm going at the battle against the Sam. So I've got Sam Pullman and Sam Wallace. The biggest thing for me is, can Sam Pullman back up after the last week's performance? Because we've talked about it all the start of the show. She was on fire, but Sam Wallace is a completely different player. And the way, when we saw them last time, Sam Pullman ended up on the bench and Tilly McDonald came on. So there is a lot more moving. I think we're going to have to rely on April Branley a lot, sticking to Helen Housby to let either Sam or Tilly work on Sam Wallace. It's going to be a really interesting game. But yeah, for me, I reckon it's going to be won or lost down that end. What do you think, Lise, about that lineup?
Yeah, well, I definitely think defence wins championships. So you both will be happy with that, I know.
And we agree.
100%.
Well, it does. I mean, not just you at that end. It's everyone doing team defence. And I know that the Swifts and the Giants know that. But it's who's going to be the smartest at it. And I think, as we were just discussing about Sarah Clowe, can she outsmart Jo Harton? Will Sophie Dwyer go back to shooter? There are some interesting little byplays that could happen. And I think you're right. I think the Sam on Sam, matchup is not the most suitable for Sam Pullman. But look, she surprised us because, I mean, she came out and beat the best shooter in the world last week. So she can do it. I think she can back up physically. She can drive herself for this final match. It's a grand final and you put everything into it. She'll train, lightly this week and make sure she's right. So it will be a mental battle against Sam Wallace, and Sam Wallace needs to bring her attitude. I think Sam Wallace needs to enjoy her game. The way that Bryony coaches her, she has to engender that confidence in her, and she can beat anyone. She can actually be the best shooter in the world sometimes when you watch her. So it's going to be fascinating. I think Giants are they've got some great, players to put out there. Christiana Manua can go out there. Tilly. They've got some great options to actually change up their defence if there's something, happening and they need to do that.
And what we've seen all year is when Sam Wallace hasn't been able to play the best in the first quarter or the first half, like they've got a gun in Sophie Garvin just sitting there waiting to come on as well, which is a pretty powerful player to have on the bench if that's where she's going to start.
Yeah, and that's the issue for the Giants. They are not strong now in their bench up the other end without Kira, whereas the Swifts are. They've got the ability to bring Sophie onto either goal attack or goal shooter and plug up some holes if they need to, or give somebody a rest even for a little while, because it's going to be a massive match. It could go into extra time. I don't know what the rules are, Bianca and Ash. You'll have to find out about that.
I would love an extra time grand final. They're the ones you want to win.
It could be a 15 minutes extra time, like, the Com Games final in 2:10. Wouldn't that be epic?
Oh, that would
it
be
actually is deserving of that.
Yes, totally. What's your key matchup?
I'm going for Maddie Hay versus who?
Well, that's actually, you bring up a very interesting point. Is it an asset or a disadvantage that Swifts don't have a main wing defence in their lineup? They've got Lauren Moore and Taylor Fraser, who are incredible players in their own right, but we never know who's going to be on the court.
Look, we don't, and it harks me back to, the girls that are watching this will be going, oh no, she's going back into the old days. But I think it was 1994 under-21 Victorian team I coached, and I had two wing defences, Katrina Latour and Bree McDonald, who became Bree Hodges, who became Bree McDonald. And in the end, I just went with, they're playing a half each. That's it. Because it just worked for our team, and we actually did that with our goal attack as well. So I think it's horses for courses, and I know Bryony knows that. It is a weakness that they haven't been able to actually nail down one person there, but it provides flexibility too. And both of them are guns at different times versus different opponents. It's who's going to be just the one that starts better and comes on better.
And you've also got the option of Paige Hadley going back to wing defence. I think Paige is also a brilliant wing defence. But if it was up to me, I'd be playing Taylor Fraser. I think she's an absolute bulldog. I love the way she plays. And you need someone like that on Maddie Hay. Like I said before, B, she's underrated. You need to be putting someone that is just going to grind her, because she gets a lot of the ball and she's a playmaker. What about you, Lise? Would you play one over the other?
Yeah, look, I like Taylor for the same reasons, Ash. I'm a bit of I'm thinking back to me again when I played centre court. I was a tagger basically, and I think Fraser does that Taylor does that very well. Lauren does do some good work. She can form part of a structure and does some good work on centre pass. But for me, I'd be going with both.
Yeah, the mix-up.
Okay, well, who is your tip for the game, Lisa?
Well, it's going to be Swifts, but geez, it's going to be close. If the rules are, if it's extra time and you have to win by 2, I don't know what the rules are because it's not international rules. I will go for Swifts by 2 in extra time.
Well, okay. Well, so what we do know is that will be 5 minutes extra time like we've seen all season, but instead of then it's just and draw at the end, you have to actually win by 3.
I was really hoping you were going to do the shoot-off.
I'm going for Swifts by 3.
And actually, just while we've got you, Lise, we saw an article yesterday about Caitlyn Bassett and we know she's not going to stay in the ANZ Premiership for next season. She is back, I believe, in Perth at the moment with her family. Where do you see her? Do you see her potentially lining up in an SSN team? Because obviously she's in the Australian squad and in the Com Games squad.
I certainly hope so. One of the teams, I mean, Seabass is an experienced player who's, she's your bookend. She can help you win a championship, really. And, I don't see the reason why you wouldn't use her. That we've got the argument about the 2-point shot, but who knows whether that's going to be in next year or not. I don't know. Kelly might have said something, but it may not be in. They might decide to go back to international rules. Seabass is still a world-class shooter. I'd be definitely putting her on my roster if I was coaching.
And we know that you have been writing some articles with Netball Scoop. Do you have one coming out before the grand final?
I don't do the previews. I leave that to the professionals.
Okay, so you do the post-game review.
I do the post-game wrap-up, which is the very comfy position of being on the couch coaching. It's so much easier.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on Centre Court, Lisa.
I'm proud of both of you, of course. Love hearing this show and well done.
Thanks, Lise.
Thanks, Lise. That was the Nitty Gritty, thanks to Lexus of Berwick. Okay, Braz, I've been holding you off for this one, but Brazilliant is back and it's your turn to take over. What have you got for us?
It should always be here, just Brazilliant. It should just be, Brazilliant should be its own award. It's so good.
Should be at the top of the show. Let's change that.
No, well, this week I'm sticking with the grand final theme and I'm showing the team I used to support when I was a kid. I'm going back 20 years ago when the New South Wales Swifts won their grand final. Julie Fitzgerald was the coach and Bryony Akel was a player. So we've got two of the head coaches that we're going to see this weekend. 20 years ago were standing on the court after the end of the game with a trophy. So I just think that is amazing, Brazilian, because I just think this is what we need to see in netball. We need to see past players as coaches, commentators, but the fact that we have both two people that I guess have already won a premiership now going head to head against each other. I don't know how I would feel if I was in that situation, but it's pretty special.
I totally agree with you. And actually a shout out to Liz Ellis and Kimmy Green and Annie Sargent, who are, all very much New South Wales people who are unable to get to the grand final to commentate this weekend. I know Kath Cox is already up in Queensland, but I love that last year being able to be there with the Vixens and be a part of it. And I think it's just really harsh that COVID stopped and blocked the borders and not even Liz can get across, who only lives half an hour from the border. But it is what it is, isn't it?
It is what it is. And really, the Brazilian should also be, we made it to the grand final.
Yes.
And with the year it's been, with COVID just blowing up, I think it's amazing. And full credit to both New South Wales teams that have been on the road this whole time. So they deserve this grand final. Okay, well, we've got to finish off with our tips for the grand final. Braz, who have you got? Well, I am going for the Swifts. I don't know why I'm going for the Swifts. I really hope it's not in overtime, like Lisa said, because I think if it's overtime, I think Giants know how to play that. But I do think Swifts have what it takes. They're experienced. They've been there before. I feel like they've just got that experience for grand final. What about you? Look, I'm going to go exactly the same as you. I think the Swifts have the experience. I think they have the disappointment of last season where they were close but didn't quite get it. A lot of them won in 2019. They know what it feels like to win. And I just think that will take them through. And I think they'll win by 5. I don't think it will go into extra time for me. Yeah. Now, well, I want it to, just because, it's exciting. And it's an extra, 5 minutes of netball? Totally. I'm happy for it to go into extra time. But we both think that we're experts. But let's be honest, it could go any way this game. And we thought, let's throw it to one of the real experts to tell us who they think's going to win. Just learned how to do that as well. He's pretty proud of himself, but he loves his auntie April Branley, so he couldn't go past her. So I don't know, big congratulations for both teams making it, and good luck. But I think the real battle is who will win, me or Louis.
Oh, I just love that. Thanks again for watching Centre Court. All thanks to TAC. Make safety features a priority in your next car. Visit howsafeisyourcar.com.au. We'll see you next week to wrap up the grand final.